David had been waiting to be found out for 6 years. Not for anything he had done wrong. He had not lied on his resume. He had not claimed a skill he did not have. He had not cut a corner that would one day be discovered. He was waiting to be found out for being ordinary, for someone, eventually, to look closely enough and realize that the person they had promoted, the person they were paying a senior salary, the person other people asked for advice, was not actually as capable as everyone seemed to believe. He had been made a director 8 months ago. It was the fastest promotion in the company's recent history. His CEO had said in the announcement that David had one of the sharpest strategic minds she had worked with in 15 years. David had smiled at the announcement and felt, underneath the smile, a familiar cold drop in his stomach. If she really knew, he thought. If she really looked. This feeling was not new. It had been present, in varying intensities, since his first real job at 24. It had not diminished with success. If anything, it had grown heavier with each promotion, each achievement, each piece of evidence that should have logically reduced it. Because more success meant more scrutiny. A bigger role meant a bigger fall when the fraud was finally exposed. He was 32 years old and privately convinced that every good thing that had happened to him was one uncovered detail away from being taken back. He had a specific habit that revealed the shape of this fear, though he had never named it as a habit until recently. Before every important meeting, he over-prepared. Not the healthy kind of preparation that comes from diligence, the kind that comes from fear. He would research not just what was relevant, but everything adjacent to what was relevant, driven by the specific anxiety that someone in the room would ask a question he could not answer, and that this single unanswered question would be the crack through which everyone would see the whole structure was hollow. He rarely slept well the night before presenting anything. He kept a private document he had never shown anyone, would have been deeply embarrassed if anyone saw it, where he tracked, almost obsessively, every mistake he had made at work over the past 2 years. Not to learn from them in a healthy way, to have them ready, as evidence, for the day someone finally asked him to account for whether he deserved to be where he was. He did not have a parallel document of his successes. There was no need for one. The successes did not feel like evidence of anything. They felt like luck, timing, the right people believing in him for reasons he could not fully explain and did not trust. The failures, though. The failures felt true. The failures felt like the real him, temporarily hidden behind a run of good fortune that could not last. His colleague Sarah had noticed something was wrong, though she could not have named it precisely. In the weeks before the moment that changed things, she had asked him, after a presentation that had gone extremely well and received genuine praise from the leadership team, why he looked more anxious afterward than before. He had said he was just tired. She had not pushed, but 2 weeks later, at a company dinner, sitting next to his mentor Marcus, a man in his 60s who had built and sold 2 companies, and now advised younger executives with the particular directness of someone who no longer needed to protect anyone's feelings, including his own, David found himself saying something he had never said out loud. They were talking about the promotion. Marcus had asked how it felt. David had started to give the normal answer, grateful, excited, ready for the challenge. And then, for reasons he could not fully account for, something else came out instead. He said, "Honestly, I keep waiting for someone to realize I'm not actually that good at this." Marcus looked at him. He did not look surprised. He did not look concerned in the dramatic way David had half expected, half feared. He looked, if anything, familiar, like a man recognizing a face he had seen many times before. He said, "How long have you felt this way?" "Since my first job," David said. "Maybe before that. I don't really remember a time when I didn't feel like I was one mistake away from everyone seeing the truth." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Let me tell you something, and I want you to actually hear it, not just nod at it." David waited. Marcus said, "I have felt exactly what you are describing, for decades. I felt it when I sold my first company for $11 million. I remember sitting in the lawyer's office, signing the papers and thinking, someone is going to realize this is a mistake." David stared at him. Marcus, who had built 2 companies, who advised executives at some of the largest firms in the country, who spoke with the calm authority of someone who had nothing left to prove. "You felt that," David said. "Even then?" "Especially then," Marcus said. "The bigger the achievement, the louder the voice got. It never went away because I got more successful. It got quieter, eventually. But that took years, and it took understanding something that I want you to understand now, so it doesn't take you as long as it took me." "What is it?" David asked. Marcus thought for a moment. He said, "There is an old story, I think it's originally Persian, about a lion cub who got separated from his pride as an infant and was raised by a flock of sheep." David listened. "The lion cub grew up believing he was a sheep," Marcus said. "He ate grass, though it did not satisfy him the way it satisfied the others. He bleated, though the sound felt wrong in his throat. He moved with the flock, stayed at the edges the way sheep do, flinched at danger the way sheep do. Every instinct that made him a lion, the strength in his body, the power in his roar, the fact that he had nothing in the world to actually be afraid of, was suppressed beneath the identity he had been raised into. One day, a real lion approached the flock to hunt. The sheep scattered in terror. The lion cub, now grown, scattered with them. But the hunting lion stopped. He looked at this creature running with the sheep. He recognized, immediately, what the young lion had never recognized in himself. He chased him down, not to harm him, to show him something. He brought him to a still pool of water and made him look at his own reflection. "Look," the old lion said. "Look at your face. Look at your mane. Look at your claws. You are not what you have been told you are. You have been living inside an identity that was never true. It was simply the one that was available to you, and you accepted it because you did not know to question it." The young lion looked at his reflection. For the first time he saw himself. And in that moment, Marcus said, something shifted. Not because anything about the lion had changed. He had always had the mane, the claws, the strength. He had simply never been shown them clearly enough to believe they were real. He roared for the first time in his life that day. And the sound that came out of him was not a sheep's bleat. It was exactly what it had always had the capacity to be. David sat with this. Marcus said, "The feeling you are describing, the waiting to be discovered, the belief that your competence is somehow a mistake, an accident, a fluke that has not yet been corrected. This is the bleating of a lion who has not yet looked in the pool." David said, quietly. "How do you look in the pool?" Marcus said, "You start by collecting evidence you have been ignoring. Every time your feeling tells you this is luck, ask yourself honestly, what skill, what decision, what specific thing did I do that contributed to this outcome? Not everything is luck. Some of it is luck. Most of it is not. But the sheep identity filters out every piece of evidence that contradicts it, so you have to go looking for the evidence deliberately, because it will not present itself to you automatically." David thought about his document, the one that tracked every mistake. He had never made the parallel one. He went home that night and did something he had never done before. He opened a new document. He titled it, simply, Evidence. He sat and thought, honestly, about the promotion. Not what luck had contributed, what he had actually contributed. The strategic recommendation 18 months ago that had changed the direction of a failing project and turned it profitable. The relationship he had built with a difficult client that no one else on the team had managed to build. The mentorship he had quietly given to 2 junior colleagues who had both been promoted since, partly because of what he had taught them. He wrote it all down, plainly, without the qualifying language he usually used even in his own head. Well, it was mostly the team, or anyone would have done the same, or I just got lucky with the timing. Just the facts, what he had actually done, what had actually resulted. The list was longer than he expected. He looked at it for a long time. He did not stop feeling like a fraud that night. 6 years of a feeling does not dissolve in one evening of honest documentation. But something had shifted, a small crack in the sheep identity, a first glimpse of something in the reflection that did not quite match the story he had been telling himself. He kept the document. He added to it, slowly, whenever the doubt got loud. Every time the voice said this was luck, he made himself find the specific action that had actually produced the result, and he wrote it down until the voice had less and less room to operate in. He did not become someone who never doubted himself. He suspected, based on what Marcus had told him, that this was not fully available to anyone, not even the most accomplished people he knew. But he became someone who, when the doubt arrived, had something to hold up against it, something specific, something true. Not I got lucky. I built the strategy that saved the project. I found the way through with the difficult client. I taught people who then succeeded because of what I taught them. These were not lucky. These were his. The lion's mane had always been there. He had simply never been shown the reflection clearly enough to believe it. He looked now. Every time the doubt returned, he looked again. And slowly, the sound that came out of him, in meetings and in decisions and in the moments that used to make him brace for exposure, began to change. Less bleeding. Something closer to a roar. Quiet at first, then a little less quiet. Then, on the days that mattered most, unmistakable.